There was once a brave young boy called Jack. He lived with his mother in a small wooden cottage, and their only valuable possession was an old milk cow. One day, the mother said, "It's no good, Jack. The cupboard is bare and my purse is empty. We will have to sell the cow to buy some food. Take her to market," she told Jack, "and make sure you get a good price for her." So Jack set out to market with the cow. Before too long, he met a strange man in the road. "Where are you going with such a fine cow?" asked the man, and Jack told him he was taking the cow to market. "Sell your cow to me. I will pay you well. Look," said the man. The man opened his hand and showed Jack some giant beans. "These are magic beans. All you have to do is plant them, and overnight you will have the finest beanstalk in all the land." Jack was excited and shook hands with the man and handed over the cow. When he reached home, his mother looked surprised. "Back so soon, Jack? Did you get a good price for our cow?" Jack told her about the strange man and proudly showed her the magic beans. But his mother was far from pleased. "How could you?" she cried. "What will we do now? We have no food and nothing to sell. We shall both starve." Poor Jack felt very bad. He threw the beans out of the window and went to bed without any supper. He had to find a way to put things right. When Jack woke the next morning, there was a strange green light in his room. All he could see through the window were huge green leaves. An enormous beanstalk had grown up overnight. The old man was right, Jack thought. These really are magic beans. I must see where the beanstalk ends. Quickly, Jack got dressed and climbed out of the window onto the beanstalk. Higher and higher Jack climbed until, at last, he reached the top and found himself in a strange new land. He could see a huge castle and smell the most delicious breakfast. But when he knocked on the enormous castle door, a giant woman peered down at him and shouted,
"What are you doing here, boy? Don't you know my husband is a giant and likes to eat boys for breakfast? I might put you in the frying pan and serve you with his bacon."
"Oh, please don't let him eat me," pleaded Jack. The giant's wife took pity on Jack and told him to go home quickly. But before he could even turn around, the ground shook and a deep voice boomed like thunder.
"Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread."
"Quick, don't let him see you."
And she pushed Jack into the oven.
"After breakfast he'll fall asleep.
She whispered.
Then you must sneak out and never return."
She left the oven door open a crack, and Jack could see the giant sniffing the air. The giant gobbled up his breakfast and drank a bucketful of sweet tea. Then he fetched 2 giant bags of gold from a cupboard and started counting his money. Before long, he fell asleep at the table. Quietly, Jack crept out of the oven. He picked up 2 of the giant gold coins and tucked them under his arms. Then he ran as fast as he could to the top of the beanstalk. He threw down the gold coins and climbed quickly after them. Jack and his mother used the gold to buy food, and for a long time they lived quite well. But the day came when the money ran out, and Jack decided to climb the beanstalk again. It was all the same as before. The long climb, the strange land, and the huge castle, even the delicious smell of the giant's breakfast. But this time, the giant's wife was not so friendly.
I know you,
She said.
You are the boy that was here before. On that day, someone stole my husband's gold.
But Jack persuaded her he had never seen a giant before. He was just lost and needed her help. Again, the ground shuddered, and the great voice boomed.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman.
Roared the giant.
Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread.
Quickly, Jack jumped into the oven.
Now, dear, there are no boys.
And the giant settled down to eat his breakfast. When his plate was empty, the giant fetched a hen from the back room. He poked it with his tree-sized finger and snarled,
Lay!
The hen laid an egg of solid gold. Jack could hardly wait for the giant to fall asleep. As soon as he did, Jack slipped quietly out of the oven and put the hen inside his jacket. Then he ran to the top of the beanstalk and climbed down.
A hen?
Said his mother. What good is that? But when she saw the golden egg, she nearly wept for joy. Jack and his mother now lived in great luxury. But Jack became bored and craved adventure. He decided to climb the beanstalk again. This time, he slipped into the kitchen without the giant's wife seeing him and hid. He watched the giant's wife make breakfast, and then he heard the giant's roar.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread.
There are no boys here.
Said his wife.
If I ever see a boy again, I will be certain to cook him for your dinner.
And just to be sure, she looked in the oven. Jack was very glad he was not in the oven. At last, the giant seemed satisfied. After he had eaten, he told his wife to fetch his harp. When the giant said,
Play.
the harp played the most beautiful melodies. Soon, the giant fell asleep, and Jack snatched up the harp and ran. But the harp called out loudly,
Master, save me, thief!
and the giant woke up with a roar. Jack raced to the beanstalk with the giant's footsteps thundering behind him. When he reached the top of the beanstalk, he threw down the harp and slithered down after it. But this time, the giant followed. The beanstalk shook and wobbled under the giant's great weight, and Jack was sure it would break. At last, he dropped to the ground where his mother was waiting with an axe. Jack took the axe and swung it with all his might at the giant beanstalk. With a thunderous crash, the beanstalk collapsed and the giant was killed. There were no more adventures with giants for Jack, but he and his mother were no longer poor, and they both lived very happily ever after.